The Xbox Scorpio. What is it? Well, it's been touted as a mid-cycle refresh of a current gen console, but things have changed from how they used to be. Consoles used to release, stay around for say 5 to 10 years depending on exactly what console it was, and then be replaced by an entirely new model. Let's use the original Xbox as an example. It released in 2001, and then its successor, the Xbox 360, released in 2005. Nice and simple. Now though, we've got Xbox 360s, Xbox 360 Slims, PS3 Slims, PS4 Slims, PS4 Pros, and now the Xbox One Scorpio, assuming that's what its final name will be. It probably won't be. I think Scorpio is just a code name. But let's exclude the slim versions of the consoles, because minus a few changes here and there to improve airflow and background processes, they are by and large the same console in a new housing. The PS4 Pro and now the Xbox Scorpio are a bit different though. These are designed to not replace their counterparts. This isn't a new generation, but I see it like this. It's kind of like the Xbox One has been hitting the gym and got really pumped up. The same games work on the PS4 Pro as they do on the standard PS4. And the same is the case for the Scorpio. If you buy FIFA 17 for the Xbox, it won't matter which console you get it on, it's going to work on either. So the question is, why get a Scorpio? What's the consumer selling point here? What does it give you over the standard Xbox One? Well, that's a good question, and honestly, I'm not convinced that it will give much benefit to the majority of people. So let's do the boring part first, the specs. So the Scorpio has a similar processor to the Xbox One, an 8-core Jaguar processor, but on the Scorpio it's clocked at 2.3 GHz compared to the 1.7 GHz on the standard Xbox One. The GPU has 40 compute units compared to 12 on the original Xbox One and 36 on the PS4 Pro, and while that won't probably mean much to you, the biggest highlight is that they're clocked at almost 1200 MHz, much higher than both the standard Xbox and the PS4 Pro. In terms of memory, 12GB of GDDR5 is available, 4 up from the standard Xbox, and the memory bandwidth is also massively increased to 326 GBs. Okay, that all sounds great, it's just a bunch of numbers, but what does it all mean in terms of games? Well, thankfully, Digital Foundry, who released the information on the Scorpio, did a very good job of breaking it down for people to understand. In simple terms, the CPU is 30% faster and the GPU 4.6 times faster than the standard Xbox One, and there's much more memory available there for games. At least 8GB for the Scorpio compared to only 5 for the standard Xbox One. Remember when the rumoured specs released a while ago and we were all wondering if it would actually be as powerful as that? Well, turns out it is, and it's also got an Ultra HD Blu-ray player just for the kicks as well, much like we saw on the Xbox One S. So then, back to the point at hand, which is exactly that. What's the point? Well, with the extra grunt of this machine and some fantastic pieces of engineering, which we'll get into soon, Digital Foundry were able to witness a stress test using the Forza 6 game engine running on the Scorpio at the same settings as Xbox One with the maximum cars on track, and they had it running at a native 4K resolution at 60 FPS without dipping. That's 3840 by 2160 at 60 frames per second, and for a console, that's pretty bonkers if you ask me. A few points here though. Firstly, it's an Xbox One game, so the visuals are no better, it's simply running at a high resolution. And secondly, as Digital Foundry pointed out, it's one of the best optimized games for the Xbox. It's an exclusive game that was designed with the Xbox One solely in mind, so it's bound to run well. Other games and other engines may not have the same efficiency. But what's more mad though is that in the demo it was achieving all this under a 70% GPU usage. Overall it's incredibly impressive, but we need to see other games actually running to give some proper opinions. As well as that, this is still an Xbox One game and not one designed for Scorpio, but remember there cannot be a Scorpio specific game, it has to work on all Xbox One consoles. What's extremely interesting though to me is the engineering techniques that they've used on their chips to get the maximum possible performance out of the console. Microsoft have built DirectX 12 directly into the command processor on the GPU, which means that communication from the game to the GPU is super efficient, and according to the developers who've adopted DX12 on Xbox have said that it's cut their overheads by half. The fact that this is a mid-cycle refresh also gave Microsoft a unique opportunity here. They could look at games currently out for the Xbox One, see where the bottlenecks were, see basically where they were struggling on the hardware, and well, build their chip around those bottlenecks, essentially working backwards. Normally you build a chip and then software makers build a game using that power, but to a certain extent this time Microsoft has seen how the game companies are coding their games and tried to make some changes that will help that by building it directly into the hardware. The Scorpio, it seems, isn't just about numbers, and a lot of thought seems to have gone into it. As well as that, the game DVR recording gets 4K 60 FPS as well, although I would like to see what sort of bitrate that's recording at to see how good the final image quality would be, because the built-in recorder on the Xbox One and Xbox One S is pretty bad. It will also get HDMI 2.0, and if you don't have a 4K TV, the console will downsample to 1080p. And what that means is that it's going to render the game at a high resolution and then convert it down to 1080, actually giving you a slightly sharper picture. And of course, with all this power, it needs some pretty epic cooling, and that works on two fronts. Firstly, Microsoft is using a process called the Hovis method, whereby each chip that comes off the production line will have its own power profile, and the board will be tailored to the chip rather than a one shoe size fits all mentality. As well as that, the console will use a vapor chamber heatsink like you would find on a high-spec graphics card. So after all that, who is going to buy this console? Well, first off, if you want to get the most out of it, I would say that you definitely need to pick up a 4K TV, and they aren't cheap. Not everyone has the money to buy a 4K TV, and on top of that, the Scorpio itself is rumoured to be costing around $500. Sure, you could still maybe get some better visuals and a sharper image even on 1080p, but it's really not worth the extra cost in my opinion. And then there's a much bigger issue at hand here, the games. Having a console that is much more powerful than the PS4 or the PS4 Pro is a big plus for Microsoft, but it's only a good thing if you have the games there to back it up. Sony has some really strong exclusives like God of War, Days Gone, the Uncharted series, The Last of Us Part 2, the new Hideo Kojima game called Death Stranding, Horizon Zero Dawn, a fantastic new IP that's just released, Killzone, Detroit Become Human looks promising as well, all excellent. Sony has a lot of exclusive games that sell consoles. Microsoft, well, at the moment, not so much. What are the main games that come to mind when you think of Microsoft and Xbox? Gears of War? Forza? Halo? Sure, there will always be a new Forza game and the new Gears released recently, and there will definitely be another one, but it's not really moving forward or exciting. Gears is the same now as it was 5 or 6 years ago. It's great to have a super powerful console, but unless you've got great games, then the general consumer will just keep doing what they're already doing, buying a PS4. And even if you own an Xbox One already, if there's no Scorpio exclusive games that look incredible, and you know that you can play all Xbox One games on your original console anyway, even if they're out on the Scorpio, is that enough incentive for you to go out and buy one and even consider getting a 4K TV? For example, if you knew that you could buy Battlefront 2 on the Scorpio and play it in 4K, or play it on Xbox One in 1080p, would that really justify the cost of upgrading? Especially if it's essentially the same game in terms of gameplay, because I think that that's the most important thing, the gameplay. It's not about graphics. Yes, 4K for consoles is amazing, it looks nice, and I'm sure that the screenshots will be very pretty, but is it really enough of a draw? Xbox need those strong exclusive games, and I think E3 is going to be a huge moment for them. We need to see some fantastic Xbox games there. Crackdown has been thrown around a bit, but I don't think it's big enough of a game or an IP to draw people in. And honestly, for me to be fully hyped for the Scorpio, I want games to look insanely better than they do on the current Xbox One. It's not just about resolution for me. I want to see better lighting, better textures, better details, better everything really. Right now we just don't know what games are actually going to look like on the new console. And whilst 4K is fantastic, I don't just want the same looking game on Xbox but at a higher resolution. For me, ultimately that's not quite exciting enough. It's the games that matter, and I personally can't wait for E3 so we can see what games Microsoft has up their sleeves to make the Scorpio more appealing, but honestly, I think it's still going to be pretty niche. And that's all for today guys. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you currently own an Xbox One or a PS4, would you consider buying an Xbox One Scorpio if you get the same games but just at a higher resolution and better graphics? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks as always for watching guys. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.